Jeannie, oh my gosh, I have wanted to have this conversation with you for a long time because you truly are one of the most beautiful people in my life. And I truly mean that when I say that. And, often we say, oh my gosh, so and so is so great and so is amazing. I literally keep your voice notes. You send me these voice notes I'm like, everybody needs a friend who sends them voice notes like this. I'm grateful that you're here. Thank you. I know you're in a busy season of life, so I'm really grateful for you making time. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself in whatever way you want to. How should people get to know you?
Well, first of all, it is my complete delight and honor to be here with you, Sandra. You know I adore you. And for anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Dr. Jeannie Arunima, and I'm the founder of Golden Life Healing, where I serve clients around the world, not only with energy healing and mentoring, but I have created an amazing, if I say so, audio store to help people support their well-being with transformational guided audio meditations with music, and they're just great and they're short. So I'm here. My mission is to spread love and well-being around this world and lift us up. Lift us up.
Lift us up. Let's start right there. And I'm going to say to anybody who's listening to this is not a paid plug or anything like that, but her audios truly are exceptional. Like I know you put a lot of love, a lot of thought, a lot of time into creating them. Tell me about why someone would want to listen to meditation audios. We're all so busy, got stuff to do. Why would I sit down and listen to your meditation audios?
That's exactly why we need to stop and turn within. And my audios are around 15 to 25 minutes average, because that's about as much time as any of us might be able to carve out. It's about the time you might wait in line for a latte if you're like running on empty. The reason you would listen to an audio or meditate or any other practice to go deeply inside is because it restores you. It's not like sleep. It's a mindfulness practice where if you stop your outward motion and turn within, the benefits are extraordinary. And it can take as little as 15 minutes for you to go away from the outside tornado of the world and go inside and just debrief, relax, renew. And I talk a lot about this in my podcast. And it's just so critical. And I want to get this message out to everybody, Sandra, because you don't have to be a meditator. You don't have to practice Zen or mindfulness forever. These audios and audios like it, they're to do it for you. They just take you right inside. And I listen to my own audios, surprisingly enough. You would think I'd had enough of it. And, listening to my own audio, I'd be, hypercritical or whatever. But I was, for example, listening the other day to a specific one, trying to edit and make sure I had everything just so. And all of a sudden, it was 30 seconds. I'm like pulled inside. I'm sitting at the kitchen table and my eyes are closed and my whole body went into this relaxation response. And it's more than sitting still. It's like sitting in a spa, getting a nurturing ray beamed through you. And you're just like, your nervous system is just so thankful. Your brain settles down. And that happened for me. Listening to myself, I have to laugh. I was like, oh my gosh, it really works. And I know it really works because
it really works. It really works. And I'm interested to know, so as you introduce yourself, you're a doctor. Tell me about the kinds of people that you work with and what are the things that they're typically coming to you for?
Sure.
And what kind of doctor are you?
Yes, good question. Well, I started out some 40 odd years ago as a doctor of Oriental medicine. So that in those days was acupuncture and Oriental medicine. I had this wonderful Japanese teacher who taught me traditional Japanese folk medicine and changed my life. I was very, very sick when I was young. And this was a phenomenal pivot for me because I had been raised in the West in Western medicine, and they'd done everything they could for me. But when I began the study of Oriental medicine and later became a doctor of Oriental medicine, I healed my life. I was able to have children when I couldn't before. I was out of pain. I was out of severe illness, which I won't go into. I mean, I've done another podcast, but it's just powerful medicine. So I switched out of Oriental medicine when my kids were about 2 and 5 because I was being a full-time mommy and I just couldn't keep up the energy that I needed to be a full-time mommy and practice for patients. I just had to stop. My energy was, going to go to the kids. And my teacher was like, yeah, the family is the most important. The mom holds the center of the universe. Take care of your kids. So it was nice to have that little blessing. But I moved into education part-time, and I had a whole second career that I never foresaw coming, and it was as a literacy specialist. So I became a dyslexia therapist, and I later became a trainer. So I have now come back to answer your question. The doctor title was earned, and I was told by the state board, that's your title, keep it. So I say that to help people understand that there is some training back there. But what I'm doing now is I see people via the World Wide Web on Zoom, just like we are now, for those of you on the YouTube. And I treat with energy medicine. So I have a mind-body practice with energy healing, and we do it distance. So that's the main avenue that I'm working with people as one-on-one clients. There's also mentoring. So I teach people how to use energy tools for themselves to become self-healers. Because, Sandra, we all have it within ourselves.
I agree. We all are healers. But help me understand and help anybody who's never heard of energy healing, or what is that? How does that work?
That's such a great question. And I'm so familiar with it that I sometimes forget that people have never heard of this. It sounds like weird and woo-woo. So let me give you a framework from Oriental medicine. And that is that the body has an bioelectrical current, the life force within us that actually circulates. And there's different channels or meridians, depending on where it circulates through the organs and the limbs and the whole body. They've actually mapped this out for the ancients in Ayurveda, in yoga, in Oriental medicine, and even modern medicine. The physical therapy is finding it. They're discovering trigger points. They're doing dry needling. So consider the body just as an energetic force. We have this life force within us. Health and well-being comes about when the body's energy flow is in homeostasis. It's balanced. Everything's flowing like it should. It's in good form. What happens is, long before physical symptoms manifest, the energy of something is kinked up or drained, and it needs to be adjusted. You can think of this like a series of water in a canal, and maybe one gets dammed up because the rocks fall in, or it's overflowing on the other. So the basic, most simple explanation is to balance the flow of the life force energy in the body, and naturally your symptoms resolve. Health becomes stronger, and well-being is definitely promoted. And that doesn't mean you don't take your antibiotics if you really need them, or go to the surgeon if you need it. Like, that doesn't supplant any of the other healing therapies, but it shows that you have power within you to do practices that help balance that. And we can talk more about those practices as well.
What are the things that you see most often in the people who come to you that cause the kinks? You said that, like, kinks or rocks that have been thrown into a river. Like, what causes those kinks in our lives?
Stress. Stress is the number one disease-producing phenomena in our entire world. actually the AMA, the American Medical Association, quoted that 90% of illnesses arise from stress. That's crazy. And the stress comes by us naturally in our modern world because we're global, savvy culture all around the world. We know what's happening. We know about the problems, global warming, the sustainability, the struggles, the politics, the strife, all those things we don't really want to talk about, but we're aware. Then came the pandemic. Holy moly. Did that cause a lot of chronic stress? Even if you have recovered and you're feeling good about it, there's an undercurrent via the media and all around us of stress in the world, just the economic stress alone. If we don't have a way to debrief ourselves and release those little knots of stress, what happens is they accumulate over time, and you get those knotted shoulders, or you're having problems sleeping at night. You get digestive problems. A lot of the people I see come to me with these kinds of stress-related problems. And if left unchecked, they add up and they compound. And over the years, you get the boulders in the river. And then it's really hard. And maybe you have an onset of an actual disease. So there are many reasons why we get disease. It's not only stress. Of course, there's genetics and there's all kinds of environmental impact and internal causes, but that's a big one. And almost everyone I see, whatever they're going through, it's complicated by stress. And we're doing it to ourselves too. We're living this crazy, busy, fast-paced schedule. And how many people stop during the day, even at night, to take a real break? And I don't mean turn on the TV and watch a movie. I mean, that's nice. It absorbs your mind. It's great to have a little thing, but we may be getting a walk. We may be getting a bottle of wine for a lot of people I talk to, but how often do we give ourselves the true gift of just being still?
What do you think? So there's the busyness of being busy, but what do you think is it we're all chasing? Like what do you, in the clients that you work with, what are we all chasing?
We are chasing this idea of what we'll feel like in the future. If we just do this, that, and the other, then we will feel good. Then we will have the thing we want. Then we will be happy. And you and I both know that's backwards thinking because it just doesn't work that way. I know I can go and do 12 hours a day because it never all gets done. And I could literally let myself do that for the next 20 years of my practice and never stop and be in nature or do the things I want to do or play the music I want to play or have the things like that are recreational, renewal, rejuvenating. And Golden Life Audio Journeys is one of those things, just to go inside, take a drop of well-being during the day. You would be amazed at how much better you feel if you can just unplug and de-stress, even in the middle of your day, or a practice at night before you sleep. If that's all you've got, that's what I did for years when I was raising the kids. So this idea of chasing something is a really good point, Sandra. So back to you, what do you feel like everyone's chasing? Why are we running so much?
It's so interesting, and this is a conversation I know you and I have had, is I feel like what people are chasing is a feeling of validation, a feeling of ultimately at its base, self-love, like feeling worthy.
Wow.
So much of what we're chasing is the external validation of ourselves, that when I have this car and when I have this house and when I have this much money in the bank, then I'll be good enough. And so at least that was my story. I've shared this with you before where I thought that if I could only just make the next amount or buy the next house or buy the next thing, that then I'd feel good. But with every milestone that I checked off, I didn't feel good about myself. And so, like you said, and I'd love for you to expand on this a little bit more for anybody who might not know or who hasn't heard about this. You said that most people's thinking is backward. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Backward thinking is what I'm defining as if I hurry up and do all these things in my plan, buy the house, get the job, make the money, lose the weight, dye the hair, whatever the things are that, I have to do that. I have to do this. Why? Because we want to do it so we feel better. We feel great. It's like, when I make the 6 figures, then I'm going to feel better. I won't, of course, the nice things and money and all those external things add up and help make life easier. But chasing them destroys the present moment. So if we live in the future of what it'll be like in the future and everything we're running around doing now, all for the future, we're just creating a future of more running around because we're not claiming our power. We're not living in the present moment. It's easy to live in the past, look back, have regrets, or feel like, this thing was done to me and I'm so sad. And all the things that happened in the past, it's easy to get lost in those, but it's equally, maybe even worse, more dangerous to go into the future all the time. And I was guilty of this for years. I was one of those people who got the next degree. I mean, you should see the list of initials after my name. It's way more than DOM. I got like alphabet soup. But did that make me feel more self-love? Did that make me feel more confident? No. It gave me a ticket. But it's the inner work that helps me to live in the present moment, feel more self-love, and feel more confident. And if anyone's listening who is feeling like they're identifying this, I just invite you to truly stop and be still within yourself a little bit every day, just a few minutes to turn inside. I like calling it going to the wellspring because it's for all of us. It's not just for a certain religion or a certain kind of person. We all have the source within us, however we call it. We all came from the same source. I call it sacred. Sometimes we call it universe. But the truth is a fact, like we're here. We all came from somewhere. And when we turn our attention back inside and allow ourselves to start going on the inner journey, it creates so much well-being. It creates love. It creates self-love. It creates a more grounded, efficient, giving, generous person because it helps us get rid of the things that we don't need, like the old stories or the racing and racing. It gets us in tune with our natural, true selves, like we were when maybe we were 3.
When we were kids and didn't have a worry in the world.
Right. And who were you when you were 3 or 5, or when you were in a state that was not worried?
So you talked about energy healing, and you talked at the top about how you work with clients literally all over the world. So how would that work? Because oftentimes we think like, I've got to have somebody, I don't know, lay hands on me, or how would it work? So how does it work for you to be able to heal people, to help people heal their energies over Zoom?
You're busting out the big questions today, Sandra. Yeah, I would have never thought it worked years ago. Even 10 years ago, I would have been, yeah, right, come on. That's some kind of like, I have that image of the preacher who lays his hands on and you're healed, and everyone's shouting, hallelujah. But, I came across it naturally. I had all the background of healing work, and I had the great opportunity to study. My teacher passed on while I was still raising my family. And so I was not able to go to his doctoral advanced study with him, which was in Santa Fe, and I lived in another state. So I had the fortune of being able to get the cliff notes from a friend, another student, a senior student, and I could hardly believe what I was hearing. But Sensei had changed the medicine into an energy healing medicine. And so he began doing what he called prayer treatments. And he taught people this method of doing a prayer treatment. And I didn't believe it at first. But a series of events led me to, let's back up to the onset of the pandemic. I had a client who called me crying and really upset and wanted to come over to my house right then. And we had just gone in lockdown and we're like, nobody's coming over, thank you. And so I started talking to her. And without even realizing what I was doing, I was so absorbed. I found myself in my treatment room because I have a home office for healing since I work online and mostly from home. And the most extraordinary thing happened. I ended up putting the phone on the treatment table and I started doing the work and we walked through it and it was magic. It was a magical experience. She came away completely restored. Her problem was gone, resolved. You know, some of it is because there is some coaching involved. There is some consultation involved about self-care, but the energy healing part, there is an energy that permeates the entire creation, and every one of us can tap into it. And if that's something you're interested in, the thing to do is to start tuning into your own feeling of love. Divine love. I'm not talking about the, partner love or the kind of unlimited, unconditional love. So you've heard these stories of people who have passed on and they've come in, stepped into this light and this extraordinary energy of unconditional love. I mean, you can read stories like that. What was the one with Anita Morjani, dying to be me. Dying to be me. Thank you. And you can read ancient texts about yogis who have like these powers. And I'm just a simple person. I don't have special powers, but I do have the ability to tune in, just like you and everyone here does, tune in to that force of love. And so really the closest thing I can say is it is prayer treatment. It's going into a sacred space and creating a beautiful healing. And it's like, I don't do that for just everybody. I'll pray for the world, but I only do that if there's permission and there's an energetic exchange between people. So energy healing is like mind-body medicine. It's really, really cool. And it's cutting edge now. And we're going to be learning more and more about it, I predict, in the coming generations, because people are starting to realize in this quantum medicine, quantum physics, there's so much more to us than meets the eye. And so that's just a kind of a starter. Does that answer your question?
It does. Something you've mentioned that you've come back to several times throughout our conversation has been love and self-love. And, one of the things that blows my mind is, when you do a Google search and bring up the Google search bar, if you type in, how do I learn to, the most frequently asked question is, how do I learn to love myself? And yet self-love is foundational. So how would you answer that question? Because so much of the work that you're doing is predicated on love, which has to start with self. And so how do you help people in your practice start on that journey of self-love, self-acceptance?
That's such a great question, especially coming from you, because I don't know if your listeners know, but I met you, Sandra, when I was struggling with self-love. And you saw that in me. You saw who I was, and you saw that I was limiting my own self. And I was trying, like air quotes, trying to love myself. I had been meditating for years, doing spiritual practices, affirmations, reading books, following people, listening, talking about it, trying, like taking care of myself, all the things I knew how to do to self-love. But the tiniest lie inside that I wasn't really loving myself fully. And I want to just say that I feel it's a journey. But in the last few years, because of you and other coaching and my hard work and my willingness to face it, I have been able to turn inward and start moving away the stories that were critical in my head and that were standing in the way of self-love. And I have been practicing this act of coming to know and love myself for 52 years so far. I made huge progress. And all I can say is, like, don't give up. But the practice of self-love begins with turning inside, which is why I love making these audios. So one of the Golden Life Audio Journeys categories is self-love. Because as we turn our attention inward and we become still, we allow ourselves to have that moment and have that time with ourselves, we actually start dipping into the wellspring. And what I love to say is, little by little, a little becomes a lot. It adds up. So it's a journey and a practice, and it will take you there if you want to go. Every single person on this planet can love themselves. It may take a little time to fully imbibe, but it's there for you. It's there for all of us at all times. I swear.
I love what you just said there, Jeannie, because that is the truth, is that self-love, being on that journey of it literally is a journey. It is a practice of a lifetime. Like, I think oftentimes, we look at, people like you, we look at other people and we think, oh, they must have it all figured out. And yet, like, the truth is, we all are on this journey where some days it's easier than other days, that, every day is about being intentional in that self-love practice. So can you share with me, I love, that the audios and your audios, as I said before, are so beautiful. What are some other self-love practices or self-love, anything that you could share for anyone who's starting on their journey to self-love? Where do we start, or what are some of the practices that you have?
I think the first thing to do is make a physical, tangible declaration to yourself that you are going to love yourself in these ways. And the most powerful way that I can recommend is to learn this 2-letter word. And the word is no. So by and large, many of my clients are women, and most of them. And women have learned over the decades from our mothers and our grandmothers to do everything. We are self-sacrificers. We are givers. And this goes for a lot of men too. I'm not saying that. But when we give ourselves away all the time and say yes to everything and believe it's our role to take care of everybody else except ourselves, that is the most damaging thing that we can do. So I invite you all to learn to say no to the things that do not serve you. Give yourself the gift of creating a boundary so that you can have your time, your self-worth, your validation. And it's only going to come from you. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to say, oh, here you go, Sandra, I'm giving you time because I see you're so worthy. Nope. We have to claim it. And we can do it in loving ways. And that could be like 6 episodes. You could talk about that, Sandra. But saying no, like, meaning say yes to yourself. What is it you want to do? What do you want in your schedule today? What do you choose to eat? How do you like your eggs cooked? What do you need for well-being for you? And speak it out. Ask for it. Claim it. So saying no, it's hard. It was so hard for me. Like I would quake and I didn't say no. I didn't do that for a long time. And then I became resentful and small and felt disempowered. And guess who did it to me? I did it to myself. So claiming yourself, your own needs is the most outward practice I could recommend. Learning to give yourself time and loving activity for yourself follows right along that, right? The other thing I could recommend, and you might have already recommended this book, but is to start doing self-talk about self-love. And the book that got me going on this that I love so much is Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And in this book, he gives you practices. And you have to stand in front of the mirror and freaking tell yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that was so hard for me to do in the beginning. Like I could barely look at myself in the mirror. And then to tell myself I love me. And it is really revealing to see where your level of self-love is when you go in the mirror and you can literally talk to yourself. Because as you do that practice, it takes you forward into self-love and you start believing and you embody those affirmations and you see that what you're saying to yourself inside may not be the good stuff. You may be saying critical, nasty, negative things to yourself, and you really need to start speaking to yourself in a loving way, just like you would if you were talking to your 3-year-old self, with love and kindness and patience and appreciation and positivity.
You know what I love about what you just said is the fact that, like it's so easy for us to say, I love you to other people, right? We have no problem with saying that. And yet that practice, it truly is, especially if you did the way that he describes in the book, like to stand naked in front of a mirror and look at yourself and say, I love you. That's something that I would challenge anybody who's listening to do, is to be able to stand like truly you, as you were created.
I love you no matter what. I love you exactly as you are. I love myself exactly as I am right now. That's all. I still laugh because I'm not 100% there, but I'm getting there and I'm keep practicing it. And I'm having breakthroughs all the time. The thing not to do is to turn your head away in shame and hide and pretend and, oh, you're not worthy. Can I cuss? I'm going to say BS. Well, it's bull hooey, okay? We are.
One of the things that I love about you is how practical your teaching is, in that, I know you've come in, you've coached in my community before, and you're able to give us like super quick tools that we can use anywhere, literally when we're on the go. Because as you said, obviously in my world, the majority of people that I speak to are people who identify as women, and the same in your world. And we tend to be the ones who hold the stress and, have so much on the go. So can you share with us maybe one, maybe two, a few practices that people could do on the go, whoever is listening, to help them in a day with stress?
The first thing would be to monitor what's going on in your head, like when you're driving, working, shopping, what's happening in your head. And if you start feeling bad, look at your thinking, because I bet you're thinking some things about yourself that aren't good. So my first suggestion is speak kindly to yourself. Like really, even if you're not finding that you're speaking nasty to yourself, speak kindly, say kind, loving words, and really believe them. Like you have to feel them. I love myself no matter what. And say it until you feel it and you mean it. And here's a clue. Whatever phrase you come up with, it makes you cringe and almost cry. That's the phrase you need. Like, I love my beautiful body. And, here I'm dealing with weight loss. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to say that. I love my body. I love my body. And so say the thing that opens your heart to yourself. That's the first thing. And do it all day long. Keep going. Keep going. It's so important. As you were asking that question, I was looking around. I'm recording from my healing office, which is surrounded by crystals. And I have a mentor in crystals who calls them crystal beings because crystals are still expanding. It's almost like they're growing. And crystals literally have a frequency. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, if you're practicing self-love, why don't you do something tangible, like buy yourself flowers? Or why don't you buy yourself a little crystal or find one? Go crystal digging. For example, like there are crystals of all colors, but pink and purple and white, blue, anything that you're drawn to. If you have a little stone, a little rock, a special rock, and that reminds you, I'm growing. I love myself no matter what. I love myself no matter what. You can put in your pocket. You can wear it. You can have it on your desk where you work. This is one of the things that I love to share is crystals because they're beautiful and they're natural and they remind us that we're part of nature too. And we have the right to exist here, just like the crystal. And if you look at a crystal, any kind of rock, like you really look at them, they're extraordinary. How does something like this grow in the earth? Like, how is this even here? It's like us. There's nobody else in the whole universe just like us. So it's a reminder practice. Both of those two practices. Speak beautiful things to yourself all the time. Put them on Post-its, put it on an audio, record it, listen to it. Speak beautiful words to yourself out loud and do something tangible that reminds you that you are worthy. You are full of love for yourself, whether you believe it or not, like a crystal or a vase of flowers every week or what have you.
I love that. I love those suggestions to, as you said, speaking kindness and then also having something physical, some evidence, because our brains are very evidence-based. So being able to show yourself the evidence of your self-love. Something else that I know you speak about often is the power of our breath and how, like our breath is energy. So do you have any practices that you can share that we can do in terms of our breathing? It was something really interesting, completely aside. Many years ago, not many years ago, it wasn't that long ago, but when I was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue, I went to a naturopathic doctor. She's the one who ended up diagnosing me in my very first session with her. She was kind of taking the notes and asking. And then she said to me, "Isn't that interesting? You don't breathe." And I'm thinking to myself, that's dumb for her to say because, of course I breathe because otherwise I'd be dead. But as I thought, it obviously stayed with me because as I thought about it, I thought about how much I lived my life up here. Like my breath was always I never breathed deeply. And that's what she was observing, that I was so strung up, so highly tensed up that I wasn't breathing deeply. So is there anything that you can share with us about how we can use our breath in helping calm us, bring us back to our center, our energy?
Yes, the breath. I am always using the breath when I work with clients. There's entire fields of ancient wisdom dedicated to the breath. The yogis have all kinds of pranayama, different breath work for different outcomes, for raising energy, for calming energy. And the breath is our best friend. I mean, think about it. The breath is with us all of our life. The breath is our inspiration, in English, to inspire. And the breath means inspire. So inspiration. And there's a divinity component to it, like the breath of God or the breath, if you look back in the historical writings. So the yogis call it the prana, the energy of life. It comes in through the breath. And so the breath is a key element in your healing. And because some people will be driving when they listen to this podcast, there's some meditation breath I'm not going to do here, but let me just share with you one of the things that's so important, and you keyed in on it exactly, Sandra, and that is to actually breathe, because we do shut down our breathing, especially when we are emotional, like when we get angry or frustrated or really sad. You know that this is an interesting aside, and I don't know the science of this, but think about a really good cry, like you start sobbing, right? What's happening with your breath? You're heaving in and out, you're moving energy, and then the tears come out. And after the good storm of a deep cry, there's the release and you feel better. That's another example of the breath. But the one thing you can do is you can seriously, if you are finding yourself stressed out, angry, upset, sad, like in an emotion, turn toward your breath and see, am I breathing? If you take the time to physically breathe in and breathe out at equal lengths for a few breaths, you are going to move that energy. So you could count to 3 and breathe in. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3. Breathing out, 1, 2, 3. Again, in, 2, 3. Out, 2, 3. And breathe at your own rate, because you don't want to get yourself dizzy or hyperventilated, but just bring your awareness to your breath. And if you can take one massive deep breath and sigh it all out and have that equal length of breath, you're going to restore yourself to a sense of balance. Something happens energetically with the breath. And that's why when you go to a yoga class or start a meditation or a hypnosis, everyone's like, let's take a deep breath in and blow it out. It's actually physiological. And I can't quote you all the things, but you could find out more. So taking the deep breath is more than a cliche. It actually moves energy. And same thing with evening the breath. That's a practice. It's really powerful to use the breath. Thank you for asking about that, because that is a wonderful way. And not only to move your energy, like that helps you self-love because you're taking care of yourself. You're learning to use the natural tools the universe, God gave you, the nature, the breath moves energy. And so use it. Use your friend, the breath, consciously. It's a wonderful tool.
Jeannie, where can people find more about you if they want to find out more about what energy healing is or how to work with you? And also where your audios are. Where can we find more information about that?
You can go online to Golden Life Healing, www.goldenlifehealing.com. That is my website. And in that website, you'll find all kinds of information about working with me or listening to my podcast, The Wellspring Within, that helps give people tips and tricks, just like we're talking about today, Sandra, and the audio store. The audio store is part of Golden Life Healing, and it's at the tab at top, and it's called Golden Life Audio Journeys. You can't miss it. So Golden Life Healing. And these audios, I just loved being called to do these meditations because they are so sweet. There's music, there's energy healing, prayerful work that I've done with each and every audio. There's frequencies. Some of them have binaural beats that help you get into deeper relaxation. And there are Ericksonian self-hypnosis language that help you go even deeper, and mindfulness, like body scans. And it's just an experience. And you can listen to little snippets of every single one to see what you might like. And I want to offer your listeners a goodie. May I?
Please. I'd love that.
If you have never used my coupon, I want to gift you with an audio journey of your choice. So you can go to the store at Golden Life Healing and you can choose any single audio. And when you check out, just use this coupon code. Ready? Free gift. One word. Free gift. No space. So go and experience for yourself. Like, don't take my word for it. We love this stuff. But if you have not been a meditator, don't worry about it. If you've never done mindfulness, don't worry about it. It's relaxation at its best. So go try an audio journey for yourself, see how it feels. And if you're like most of my listeners, you're going to start coming back to this practice every day.
Jeannie, a question for you, a practical question for anybody who's listening, who please take advantage of this, free thank you for this beautiful gift that you've given us. We'll make sure to link in the notes. For anybody who's going to listen, is there a specific, do you have to be lying down? Do you have to be seated? Mm-hmm. Can you listen to them while you're on a walk? Like, how do you use these audio journeys?
So when you go on a meditation, an audio journey, you do not want to be driving. Absolutely no driving allowed, no heavy machinery. This is where you're going to go get comfortable, close your eyes. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to close your eyes. A lot of my clients do these during their lunch break at work. They'll shut the door, they'll put on their headphones, and they'll just, at their desks, turn on their journey, have a little lunch, turn on the journey, close your eyes. Or during the midday slump in the afternoon, you can lie down like you would in a yoga class, or you can sit back in your favorite comfy chair. The only thing not to do is don't listen while you're driving or doing something like that, because these are designed to help you go into a different experience, one akin to deep sleep. Not that you'll fall asleep, but if you do, that's okay. Maybe if you're worried, set an alarm in case you fall asleep. But I don't think that you'll have that trouble. So, yeah.
And why did you call the brand Golden Life Healing?
My meditation teacher for 40 years is an amazing being. I believe she's like a saint on earth. I went to India to study meditation with her, and she's the one who turned me inside, helped me to see that the self dwells within. All of us, we are all worthy. And one time she gave a talk, and I kept the title of this talk for years and always contemplated it. It was a golden mine, a golden life. And every time I thought of gold, I think of the sun, beautiful, life-giving, golden energy, and just this idea of gold. It's like transformational, and it's not about worldly treasures. It's about the energy we have inside. And so for me, golden life, to have that golden life is to have that inner self-love connection and manifest it outward and heal yourself. I'm all about self-healing. We all have the power within ourselves to turn within. And that kind of energy of turning within in that prayerful, sacred space, meditation, relaxation, whatever you want to call it, is the most healing energy that you can do for yourself. Self-love. They're really all synonymous if you get to the heart of the matter. At the height of self-love, when we find our true selves, I believe it's an expansion of just absolute golden energy, light, love, God, self, source. It is all one. That is my belief and my experience.
All roads seem to lead to self-love.
Exactly.
Self-love being the foundation of it all. Jeannie, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for the incredibly generous gift, which anybody who's listening to this, I cannot recommend her audios enough. They're absolutely beautiful. They will take you on a journey. And I'm so grateful that you're extending your generosity to us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. What a pleasure and honor to be here I'm so happy you all. Thank you for listening today, everybody who was here. All love and all blessings to you.
I'd love for you to finish how we always finish on this podcast, with finishing this sentence. I am.
I am love. I am love. I am love. And so are you.
You are love indeed. Thank you so much, Jeannie. I appreciate you. I love you.
I love you. Thank you, Sandra.